enormous heart lies with its beautifully exotic inland.
Good evening and welcome to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram. Thank you for joining me and my guest this evening, Captain Gerry Gouveia, as we discuss some of the issues that have flowed from the elections held on March 2nd, 2020. You may have noticed the seating arrangement. It's all about social distancing. As you recall, last week we had Dr. Adu Crow from the PAHO WHO, and you are aware as well that PAHO WHO is in fact recommending much more stringent measures to deal with the coronavirus, or COVID-19 as it's called. I will be discussing with Captain Gouveia, who is the chairman of the Private Sector Commission, a number of issues. He's in the airline business, what it means with aircraft not coming in. We know as well the chips are also restricted. There's the question of the statements issued by the Ghana Revenue Authority. There's the issue of the oil price, and so many other things to discuss. So maybe, Gerry, let me welcome you to Plain Talk.
Thank you very much.
You, in the Private Sector Commission, had observed the elections, but that we haven't seen a report from you about elections.
The report is finished, but the Private Sector Commission is an organization with a council of 30-odd members, and so the report had to make its rounds to the council, and I think it's with General McLean at the moment, who is the chairman of our Governance and Security Subcommittee, and he was the person in charge, in overall charge of our operations and observer missions. And so I imagine by tomorrow he should be able to submit it to me as a finished document. But so I'm expecting to have it published very shortly.
From what you know, the observers might have been found, and I think you yourself were part of
Yes,
the
absolutely.
observer team. What's your impression of the elections on March 2nd, 2020?
Actually, I was always a very big fan of GCOM. I have been working very close with GCOM from way back in 2001, particularly, and 2006 and 11 and 15. And I will tell you, the elections that on March 2nd, all of our observer teams, and including what I observed for the entire day, the actual voting process, I actually took the U.S. ambassador and the British High Commissioner. That day we flew from Oakland at 7 o'clock in the morning. We went to Henry, China. We looked at the polling stations there. We went to Bartica. We went to Linden. We went to Skeldon. We went to Albion and Berbice and so on, New Amsterdam, and all of the polling stations we went to, we found staff that was highly trained, They were very courteous. They were very efficient. The GCOM systems, the security of the polling stations were very good. There's all the checks and balances. Nobody could vote. Nobody could vote twice. Nobody could vote for somebody else. So long as all of the party agents were in the room, it was actually a very impressive elections, all the way up to the time when we end up with the roadblock.
What do you mean by roadblock?
Well, basically, what happens at the end of voting at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, they lock the polling stations up, and then all of the party agents and the presiding officer and the observers will be in our room, and then they will open the ballot box and they will count the votes in the box together, and then they will fill out the statement of poll. Now, the statement of poll comes in books of 4, and they're all carbon copy. And so, at the end of the night, when they finish counting, then they will fill up the statement.
They come in books of 4.
The statements of poll.
Yes.
These are highly secure documents with a lot of security features inside of them. They were printed in Canada.
Yes.
And so, the presiding officer, assisted by GCOM staff, will fill out the results from what the count is inside the box. They will put it on the statement of poll to show how many votes went to APNU, how many votes went to the PPP, how many votes went to the other parties, and so on. And then everybody in the room signs on to that document. And everybody in the room is given an exact carbon copy of that document. So everybody leaves that room with a carbon copy of that document. An observer may get it, the party agents will get it. And so there were, for example, in Georgetown, where they had the issue, there were 879 statements of poll, or polling stations across the Region 4. And so the presiding officer then delivers 2 of those statements of poll. One go to the returning officer for the region, and one will go to the CEO. That is in
Chief Elections
the
Officer.
Chief Election, which is in the command center of GCOM, and which is two separate lines of checks and balances. So the Chief Election Officer, a copy is delivered to him, and he and his staff and the commissioners, then they would do their own tabulation, separate and apart from what happens at the returning officer level. So it's a double check, it's a backup system to double check what the returning officer is doing. And so that system worked throughout the other regions. So throughout the other regions, at 12 o'clock at night, in places that they could drive, all of them would have had the statements of poll. Next day, for example, in Lethem or in Camarang or in Mabaruma, where they had to come from the outlying areas, they would probably be getting those statements of poll next morning, and so on. So, and it's a very simple process, it's not a complicated process. So when the returning officer gets his statements of poll, then he invites all of the party agents from that region in the room with him, and then they would start a tabulation process. So they would have a spreadsheet, a blank spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, blank, and generally they would project it up on a screen, so that everybody's looking at the screen with the spreadsheet, and then the returning officer then would call out the statements of poll. So he said, for example, in Georgetown, Bel Air Park, statement of poll number so-and-so from Bel Air Park, and then he reads out the result for that polling station. And as he reads it out, if everybody agree, then it goes in.
If everybody agrees.
Well, the party agents,
yes,
right? Because they would have their copy.
They have a copy.
They have the carbon copy that was given to them from the presiding officer in the polling station.
Okay.
So they're looking at that copy, and when he calls it out, because now they're populating the database, not the database, the spreadsheet, to get the regional results. And so when everybody agrees, then the numbers goes in. Everybody watch the number goes into the spreadsheet, and they populate the spreadsheet throughout the night or throughout the period. And then at the end of it, everybody agrees that those are the numbers, and everybody agrees that it adds up to this is the total for the region. And the law says then that the returning officer, very shortly after doing that, will then announce the results. And that happened throughout the regions. That was happening. And the good thing about what happened there is that in every region, all 10 regions, we had about 200 or more foreign observers invited by the government of Guyana.
Yes.
They were invited by the government of Guyana. All of them came, and they were very impressed with the systems. They all came, and they were in every They were sitting in every region with every returning officer, and they observed that process. And there was no problem. There was no problem in 9 of the regions. So starting from region 1, region 2, region 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, not 4. 4
Yes.
was the last one which was surprising because 4 is right here.
Yes.
But all the other ones, when you understand that Mabaruma in region 1 and Camarang in region 7 and 10 and 9 and up. So all 9 of those regions, the returning officer was able to deliver their results. And then the problem happened in region 4.
Is there a step that you may have left out, Gerry? That isn't there a requirement that a copy of the statement of poll be publicly displayed at the polling station?
Yes. Well, when they finish counting the poll, when they finish counting the box and they close back the box, everybody get a copy of it. One goes in the door. People take pictures of that. It was posted all over the internet. So generally, the general population knew the results of that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. And so across the 9 regions, that system worked. The returning officer picks up the statement, the poll, he reads the number, everybody agree with it, they put it into the database, into the spreadsheet. And so the spreadsheet is populated. It's a evolving process that is the spreadsheet is being populated as everybody agree with the number that the returning officer is calling out. And in region 4, that process started about 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning, that process started, and it was going very fine.
That's the evening of March 2nd.
Right. It was Tuesday morning at 2 o'clock.
Yes.
And everybody was in the room. All the observers were there, all the party agents were there. And Mr. Mingo was there. It was going very well. It started at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were calling out the statements of poll, and everybody was going through it, and they were agreeing, and they went right through to Tuesday. They did a lot, maybe a couple hundred of them. And then everybody got tired, and then they took a break. And when they took the break, then they later on that afternoon, that Tuesday afternoon, the young lady came back. I think they went through the night, and then the Wednesday morning, because the Wednesday morning, Mr. Mingo got sick.
Yes.
Mr. Mingo came to work, and then he got sick, and everybody felt really, really sad for him, and so on. He went away, and then later the Wednesday afternoon, a young lady or 2 young ladies came to start the process back, but this time they came not with the statements of poll, but with a spreadsheet. And so people's comments were, why are you reading from a prepared spreadsheet when really you should be reading from the statement of poll and then populating the spreadsheet? And that started to cause a little bit of conflict. Mr. Lowenfield actually came downstairs into the room, and he did a check on it, and then he found that about 3 or 4 of the numbers that they were calling actually was incorrect. They didn't match the statement of poll. And so the commission of GCOM had an emergency meeting, and they abandoned the process. They abandoned that spreadsheet process, and they went back to the process where they put up the screen, and the people they were calling the numbers, and it was populating the spreadsheet. And that was going very fine. That went into the night of Wednesday night, and then it was postponed. It was suspended until the next morning at 9 o'clock. Next morning at 9 o'clock, everybody was sitting there, and they only had about 400 finished so far by that time. And it was going very, very fine. The numbers were coordinating. In the meantime, this was happening upstairs in the GCOM command center. The commissioners were also processing their statements of poll, because it would go into the command center. They would all of them would sign it, and then it goes into the IT section of GCOM, where they would be populating a database just to cross-check what would be happening downstairs. So as all of this confusion is going on, there is a parallel system that was going on upstairs in the command center that was meant to be a backup system to all of the returning officers and their declarations.
So there's a fair number of, some people in IT you call it redundancies. So even if one fails, there's
Correct.
another.
Correct.
How come? Or perhaps I should ask you. It's very unusual for election results not to be declared within a matter of days. What does the law require in relation to declaration of results?
Well, I think our Guyana laws give us 15 days. But the truth of the matter is, there's no reason that with the system that we have, we could not have had election results by, I would say, the latest. If we had elections on Monday, we could have had election results by Wednesday. There's no reason we should not have been able to do that. But I was going to make the point that on Thursday morning, when everybody was sitting there waiting to continue the process, because only half of them were done, then Mr. Mingo turned up in the room and he said, I'm here to declare the results. And people said, but how are you able to declare the results and we have not even finished the tabulation process? And he went ahead and he did a declaration, which of course the Chief Justice eventually ruled was unlawful. And then she directed him to go back and do it lawfully. And so that is where the confusion started. And it's unfortunate, I will tell you, Chris, that today, at the 25th of March, that we still don't have an election result. And as we sit here, none of us know what is the result of these elections. Because I am not going to take what anybody says. Obviously, we want to have results that are credible, that is certifiable. And what is unfortunate is that every single international agency, this is not one international agency, this is the Carter Center, this is the OAS, this is the Commonwealth Secretariat, this is the European Union, this is all the CARICOM observers was in the room, this was all of the ABC ambassadors was in the room, this was all of the local observers in the room. And so this is not a case where this was just one person. And I hear people keep making this comment, oh, the OAS is making mistakes. Well, this is not one person. This is not one organization. This was every single international organization was in that room that saw the anomaly that happened. And so the results up to, as we speak here now, what we really need to be able to do is finish that process in a credible way so that Guyana, because when you don't do that, what you do is lose legitimacy as a country. Losing legitimacy as a country, your democratic election systems, when it meets the criteria of being credible, then your governments go under the umbrella of legitimacy. And if you don't meet the criteria of credible election systems, then you lose that legitimacy, and then you lose a lot of things. You lose a lot of, there's all kinds of things that happen to the actual people who may be under that government, and so on and so on and so on. So it's not a good place to be. So we really need to finish this process in a credible way, whether it's CARICOM that will count the votes, whether it's the United Nations will come and bring a team to count it, or the OAS will count it. We really need to have these elections finally counted properly, and so the elections and then the results could be accredited internationally, and so Guyana could now move on as a legitimate country into the world of nations.
But the law requires the returning officer to do the declaration.
That's right.
And he's responsible for the region and for the taking all the statements of polls. He's not interested in the ballot papers.
No.
He's responsible. He's interested in the statement of polls.
That's correct.
How does the court system? Because there are so many matters now in front of the court. We know, as you said, there was one where the initial declaration was declared unlawful for not keeping in accordance with it.
And the second declaration was also unlawful in my view, because the
court hasn't decided on
right.
that.
But I'm telling you, because for me, what the Chief Justice had ruled, the Chief Justice instructed how the process should be. The Chief Justice actually showed them how it must be done, and it wasn't done like that.
So where are we? Because, as you said, there are other things.
We're in no man's land.
Yeah. In terms of the court, what is the court being asked to do?
The court, unfortunately, in my view, is being asked to pronounce on the blocking of transparency in the democratic process, and which is quite an anomaly, because transparency goes hand in hand with democracy, and to ask the court not to allow transparency to prevail is a real travesty in my view, because we really want to be able, all of us as citizens want to ensure that transparency in democracy goes hand in hand. And so to me, what is happening now is that the court is being asked to pronounce to support the removal of transparency in a democratic process. So which is I'm only a mere bush pilot, so I don't understand all these difficult things, Chris.
I love how you always bring that, the court is in fact dealing with this issue of the declaration. Now, from your position, change your hat. You're speaking now as chairman of the Private Sector Commission. How is the delay in the declaration of the results affecting the business community? Affecting the country wider than the business community?
Well, events have overtaken us, but the whole preparation for these elections and elections itself was causing a lot of anxiety, and I believe sometimes maybe even unnecessarily, a lot of anxiety in our society. But it's been overtaken now with the coronavirus, and the coronavirus has basically almost shut the economy down, and that is beyond the control of anyone. And this is a time when this virus that really don't know, this virus don't pick it don't pick the side of GCOM, it don't pick the side of the PPP, or they don't pick the side of APNU, it don't pick the side of the private sector, it don't pick the side of people of different races. All of us, this is the equal opportunity disease. This is an opportunity disease that any one of us, and this disease could really wreak havoc in our country. And so I am seeing a lot of effort being done by the administration at this time in trying to put systems in place and trying to mitigate what is required. And I'm telling you, citizens are not listening. If you leave this to moral suasion, where young people should know that they should not be going to clubs and congregating in groups, should not be going to the movies, should not be going into bars and restaurants. And so I think the administration of the country at this time has actually been trying to use, or let people use, a sense of responsibility to be responsible.
That has not worked in other countries.
I am seeing, and I'm hearing from young people that they're in all the bars at night, and that needs to stop, because this is not an individual responsibility. This is a responsibility. We need to kill this virus, and the only way to kill this virus is for it to stop moving from human being to human being. And the only way that could happen is if we first of all find the people who are infected and isolate them, and then the rest of us isolate ourselves. And so the virus will die on surfaces in the natural environment will take care of that virus. But we have to remove the human body as a place for that virus to be housed. And we are not doing a good job. And we may have to call for some more stringent measures eventually. Luckily, if the official figures are correct.
I was going to come there, yes.
If they are correct, we only had 5 cases in Guyana. 1 person died, unfortunately. Sorry for that. But then there are only 4 others. And
from a single cluster.
And the 4 others are in isolation. So we haven't had any reports of this thing spreading in Guyana. But certainly we cannot wait for that. We have to be responsible.
But, President Trump said the medicine can sometimes be worse than the disease.
Yes.
And he is saying, look, there's an overreaction. And that's where people, there are thousands of cases, hundreds of deaths. In our case, there's a single cluster.
And a single death.
And a single death. Are we overreacting?
No, I don't think we are. I think as a pilot, I always believe in preparing for the worst. I always believe that we must take the mitigating things, and I believe that the fact that we may not have been so badly affected yet, but you look at what is happening to countries around us, you look at what is happening in the United States and Canada and Europe, in Italy and Spain, it's coming. And so we don't wait until it arrives and then to suddenly wake up that we need to do things. And so I believe that the fact that we are reacting now, we are doing the things we are doing, closing the airport is a big economic impact, huge. I mean, the travel and tourism industry is basically shut down today. My own company, our ground handling is gone, our aviation security is gone, our executive lounge is gone, our hotels are gone, our restaurants are gone, our conference centers are gone, our tourism, Arrow Point is gone, tourism flights to Kaitro Falls is gone. And so basically, a company like ours, we have basically been grinding to a halt. But it is all in the national interest.
In terms of the jobs either in suspense or lost, what kind of in your company? What's the number?
It will be huge. I mean, we employ about 300 people, and the divisions that I just called there is 90% of our revenues have gone. And so what we are struggling to do, we will probably pay all our staff to the end of March, is what we are working to do, and I think a lot of companies are trying to do that as well.
Yes.
We are negotiating our banks, deferral of our loans, and so on. And then the challenge will really start in April. What do we do in April with zero revenues? So I had long discussions today, for example, with the Ministry of Labour as well. And this is really uncharted waters for all of us. How do we deal? When I did my business plan when I was starting my company, we did a business plan, and we had the best case scenario and the worst case scenario and the normal case scenario. We have never, and I don't know about you, if I have never planned for a zero case scenario.
Yeah.
Well, this is a zero case scenario.
The question of the elections would have been an issue in enough, though that would probably have been fairly temporary.
The elections would have been able to be overcome, and the election. Let me just finish by saying to you, I believe that the elections will come to a finality. I think the chairperson of GCOM, as a retired judge, I think she will make the right decisions. I think the political leaders. I think when you saw President Granger and former President Jagdeo and the Prime Minister of Barbados discussed this issue and came up with what was a sensible solution to this problem, which was, look, let us recount every vote in every box in every region. So I believe that we have sensible leaders that will do the sensible things, and we cannot hold Guyana in abeyance. We cannot allow our country to be an illegitimate country. We cannot allow Guyana to lose its legitimacy. And so I believe the leaders will make the right decision. So the election issue will be overcome. I think the bigger issue is this virus.
You say it will be overcome, and,
yes.
and we, as I tell you, I do want to move on, but you remember the question of the much simpler issue of what is the majority of 65 took our courts almost 7 months to address.
It's a pity when you use the law to break the law. And I saw somebody wrote that, when you use the law to break the law. And we really need to stop playing those games. Certainly, everybody have a legal right, and we all respect the law. We respect the courts, and we must respect the courts. But I think to use the court, mathematics, like for you, mathematics keep me alive. If I can't add, or if I don't know what is the majority of 65, my plane will crash into a mountain. If I cannot count, I don't need a judge to explain to me mathematics. Mathematics is an exact science.
But the point I was making,
it's not an opinion.
The point I was making, the question of an election results could possibly be more complex than that, than the simple thing of what's the majority of 65.
No. These elections, this is simple. This is a simple matter. I mean, this is not a complex matter. The complex part of the elections were over,
Yes.
All of the voting in the ballot boxes, pulling the statements of poll together, all of those things, those were the complex things.
Okay.
The simplest thing we need to do now, we just need to take 879 statements of poll, and Lowenfield have state 800. I mean, even if you say, look, we don't trust the ones no more that the returning officer has. Lowenfield,
the chief elections officer
upstairs, they have carbon copies of 879 statements of poll in GCOM that is not even touched. That was there as a backup to the returning officer all over the country. Notwithstanding their photographs of those statements of poll that was on the doors. And so it's not a complex issue to do, and this could be easily done if people would accept the democratic process. would accept the consequence of it, and they're committed to keeping Guyana away from becoming a failed and weak state and a illegitimate state. And if you look at the international pronouncements about Guyana, if we go down a particular path, what will happen to us? And I don't think any one of our leaders want that. So I'm very optimistic, actually.
We'll get back. Well, let's finish this. Let's finish this issue. You have seen over the past, what it was, about 18 hours, the United States of America, a $2 trillion recovery plan. The government sending money, individual households, businesses such as businesses in industries that are badly affected, like for example in your case, because you are shut down.
Yes.
You didn't choose to shut down.
Right.
You
Actually, our company was doing very well. We were actually looking to expand this year. We were very optimistic. And we still are.
Well, you know, the tragedy is, within 1 month, how the mood
Yes.
has changed. Raman McRae has been putting investors with possible opportunities in place, and it was so gung-ho, it was so positive, and now everything, just about everything, has been shelved
Yeah.
because investors are now short of cash flow. Where's the money going to come from to invest? And we had a property boom over the past 3 years.
Yes.
That's been financed by lots of borrowings, by mortgages and so on. Those things are now in some kind of risk.
In a big way, because the banks are going to be hit hard as well, because the banks got to defer their loans. So this is not affecting just one sector. This is across the sector, and even as the administration look at imposing more restrictions to keep people away from each other, to enforce the issue of social spacing and distancing, it will become more and more economically impacting.
Well, I mentioned some possible areas where the government, some of them in the United States, about 500 billion is for businesses at risk, airlines, hotels, etc. And then you have money for families, money for the state, money for hospitals, money to support the service. 2 trillion. That's the size entire budget of the, actually slightly more, entire budget of the United States of America. What do you, as leader of the Private Sector Commission, expect the government to do? And perhaps you didn't know this. Let me just, this came, as they say, hot off the press. The Guyana Revenue Authority has just issued a statement of a package of relief offered to businesses and individuals to reduce the impact of COVID-19. That's the coronavirus. Among the measures, waiver of VAT, duties and excise tax on all medical supplies associated with the testing, prevention and treatment, vitamin C and multivitamin. This takes effect from March 26th, and I think that's tomorrow morning, and will be in effect until June 30th, 2020. The Guyana Revenue Authority points out that these items would have previously attracted duties ranging from 5 to 20% and VAT of 14%. Some of which, in fact, not only 40%, some of these would have been zero rated. The Commissioner General, the Guyana Revenue Authority, has also indicated the associated tariff codes, particularly under the custom duty. Tax deductions will be given for all donations. You know, donations have generally got very strict rules. but all donations made by local businesses to staff and health institutions for the prevention and treatment of COVID-19 will be permitted. There is deferment of payment of corporate and individual taxes, advance taxes, and PAYE for businesses affected until June 30th, 2020. Deferment of the payment of corporate and individual advance taxes and PAYE, that's an interesting one, because PAYE is money that belongs to the employees really. That is available until June 30th. Then there's another quite attractive provision, I speak as an accountant here. Businesses will be allowed to pay advance taxes on the current year basis as opposed to the previous year basis. What this means, Gerry and viewers, is that because your business is so badly impacted by the COVID and the other issues we discussed, the elections, then it's very unlikely that your profit in 2020 could come anywhere close to your profits in 2019. Now, in 2020, you would have been paying taxes based on your 2019 income. I say that for the benefit of the viewers. So you're paying on the current year basis. Those must be quite attractive measures.
Like I told you, I believe there are people in the administration, policymakers, and operations people, and they have. I mean, for them, it's uncharted waters, and every day, I think they're thinking about this. And I think, and I want to applaud the GRA for this initiative. The Private Sector Commission. Every day at 2:00 we have a massive meeting with doctors and across the medical fields in Guyana. Because
is that an in-person meeting or you?
No. It's a private sector meeting. It's a private sector meeting.
No. I mean, do you meet physically or do you meet?
Oh no. We meet. It's a virtual meeting where we meet on Skype and so on, and we have 10, 20, 30 people on the club. But there's a national task force to deal with the virus, and Ramesh Duku is the private sector rep on that task force, and so what we do is we meet to talk to him, to empower him to take not only issues that may be for public health, but certainly for the economy. And so today we have crafted, and we've almost finished crafting it, a whole bunch of economic recommendations that we would have. It will go to the task force, and of course the task force will then disperse it to wherever it is necessary. But if you think about it, I mean, if we pay a VAT on water, right?
Yes.
And if you think now we are telling people to wash their hands every 20 minutes. We need to get
point.
That's
a good point.
We need to think, and we are talking about sanitizers, and we are talking about and so on. So there's a whole host of recommendations that the Private Sector Commission have put together today, using all the business, the giants of business in here to make recommendations. And Ramesh Duku is meant to deliver that to the task force, and he is there working with the task force and understanding the issues that is surrounding that. So I think it's a good process, that is a good effort, but the fact that people may not actually think about everything at the same time, that is why we all need to put our brains together. This is a time when if you want to talk about national unity, this is the time when we need all hands on deck. All hands on deck.
But one of the challenges we face, if you, and again I turn both to the US, which we all follow quite closely, but also in the UK, where UK has just passed a budget with an 80 billion pounds. That's essentially.
But no, Chris, it's important. We cannot. Guyana economy is a $3 billion.
No. You didn't allow me to finish my question. The question, what I was going to point out, we do not have a parliament at this stage.
True.
And that's so. In other words, what do you pass?
It's not only
because the US, as you notice, you had the House of Congress, you had the Senate, and you had the White House all engaged. In the UK, Parliament, the House of Commons. So we don't even have the framework, the machinery, the structure to deal with the critical issues.
And at the moment, because we are in this no man's land of abeyance, our legitimacy to try to gain international aid is also going to be challenged. How people respond to Guyana at this time. But this is a time when all of our politicians need to get together and sit down. And all of our brains need to get together and sit down to bring it to this. But the point I was making to you is we are a $3 billion GDP, approximately. And Barbados, I believe, is 8 billion, and Trinidad is spending 1 billion, and Jamaica is 14 billion.
Yeah.
And so we relatively are a very small economy. We are certainly projected to skyrocket, but here we are today. And so the government is limited by what any government could do under these circumstances. This is an entire economic collapse. We may have to look at things like, I think I heard the GRA talk about the issue of PAYE. They may have to even think about refunding some of that PAYE that people pay to try and but those are discussions that we need to have.
The problem is, where is this money going to come from?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
who makes the decision? So
and how legitimate is those decisions?
So
because it is a challenge for us, and that is why we have to get past this election impasse. Cannot wait until the virus is over.
Yeah.
This election. That is why I believe our courts are going to continue working, from what I understand, to try to get this resolved, and so we have to get these elections fixed so that we could have a government and an opposition and a parliament and our leaders, our political leaders, working together. And when you talk about a inclusive governance system, here's an opportunity for us to do it. So a lot of people talk about it, but it's an opportunity for us to do it quickly.
I want to go again to the statement issued by the Guyana Revenue Authority. It says all other taxes are due and payable in accordance with the law. This includes balance of tax payments for corporation tax and income tax due for year of income 2019, which is payable by April 30th, 2020.
Wow.
Should the GRA be now, then interest and penalties, though applicable for late filing and payment made, may be waived by the Commissioner General for due cause. Well, the due cause already exists.
That could probably be a little oversight.
I think the Commission is going to relax on it. But what bothers me, Gerry, and I speak now as someone employed with an audit firm, there's no exemption for filing your tax returns by April 30th.
We have some serious issues on our
You have
hands.
sent home some of your employees.
Yes.
Now, how do we get to finish your audit?
People are working 3 days a week and 2 days a week. When I go to my office, I feel very sad. I see all the empty chairs.
Yeah.
And the gate is locked with a padlock, and there's a wash sink, and there's sanitizers at the gate, and nobody using it because nobody's coming.
You're not happy with this particular provision?
No. Like I'm saying, I think we are in uncharted waters, and as we go along, our regulators and so on, they are now trying to grapple with these things, and they believe that there will be money to pay that. But with what is happening, there'll be no money to pay anything, because every penny will be dried up. Every penny, there's no revenues coming in. And so when you think about your utilities that you have to pay a light bill, you have to pay for, people have to buy food, and there's no revenues. So I don't know. It's a real...
Because you'll have to pay your balance of taxes by April 30th, 2020.
And starve for the rest of the year.
Well, let's hope it doesn't get that way.
Right.
But that's an issue. It means that the only taxes that are going to be available, withholding tax, property tax, capital gains tax. So what you might want to do, Captain Gouveia, is have your representative, the PSC representative on the task force, to raise these issues.
All these issues are on the list, yes. And they're going to consult with you as well. We made that decision today. You promised to join the meeting today, but you obviously had better things to do, and you didn't join us today.
Well, I like to know that I'm being consulted, because we will charge, of course. No, that's a joke. Gerry, there's an issue you raise about where we were likely to go in terms of the economy. because of a price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia, oil prices have collapsed by more than 50% since the beginning of the year. That's a third problem for us.
Right. There are three things that are affecting us. Right.
What do you see? What do you see as the impact there?
When I talk about where Guyana was going, I have never put all my eggs in the basket of the oil. Let me tell you, one of the biggest transformational developments that could happen in Guyana is that road that connects us with Brazil. So this road that will connect us with Brazil, that comes through the rainforest, 300 miles to a deep water harbor on the Atlantic coast, because what is happening, the Brazilian government is moving a lot of their manufacturing sector from southern Brazil into the northern states of Roraima, into the Amazon, into Roraima, and so on. And the northern cities of Brazil used to be powered by the Gori Dam in Venezuela. That dam is now silted up. So the Brazilians are also looking for new hydro systems, and they've identified a place in Guyana as a possible place to do it. And so when they manufacture move to the northern states of Brazil, the logistics lines back to the south is 600-700 miles, and against 300 miles through the rainforest or Deepwater Harbor. So that road will open up amazing lands for housing, for agriculture, for tourism, and it will also connect us with the 300 or 400 million people that lives here in South America that will come to Guyana to listen to our music, eat our food, connect with the Caribbean, on the one hand. On the other hand, you have the manganese mines, you have the gold mines. We have an amazing tourism product. So even without the oil, agriculture, for example, we have never as a country really, a lot of our people do farming, but we have not taught these people how to do the business of farming. And so agriculture got an amazing potential for Guyana. So even without the oil, the trajectory of Guyana was going amazing places. The oil by itself, we haven't even sat down to discuss what are we going to do with the natural gas coming off of those oil fields. And the natural gas will bring down the cost of power tremendously. Right now, we are paying, the cost of power is destroying our manufacturing sector. And so the natural gas coming off of those oil fields, we have not even had the discussion yet how we bringing it off and where we landing those pipes to bring off the natural gas. And those are things we should have been talking about, and we should still be talking about, because the oil is there. The oil is not going to spoil. The oil is still there. But we have to get past the two things. We have to get past the election issue. We have to get past the virus issue. And then we have to get on with national development. And Guyana is one of the most exciting places to be on planet Earth today. The potential and possibilities that is before us. The young people of Guyana, but you know what they say, unfortunately, Chris, they say that the prosperity of a country got little to do with the quantum of our natural resources. It got everything to do with the quality of our leadership. We need leaders who know how things work. We also need leaders who don't know that they don't know how things work, and so they take advice.
Okay. Who know that they don't know.
Correct.
Not who don't know that they don't know.
Right,
Yes.
right. And so the point is, the future for Guyana is such an amazing place. Every place in the Caribbean is looking to Guyana. Even though
Would you say that is true today as we speak?
It still is.
On
It
March
still
the
is.
25th?
It still is. I would rather be nowhere else in the world, and I could live anywhere in this world, and I would rather be nowhere else in this world rather than being here, right here in Guyana, working for national development, working for democracy, working. Look, you know what encourages me? When I went the other night, I passed by GCOM in Kingston, and I saw hundreds and hundreds of young people, ordinary young people, they call themselves the vanguards of democracy. All of them guardians of democracy.
Yes.
And all of them are showing me their finger. They want to protect their vote. To me, that is an amazing awakening in Guyana.
Well, you say that, but for today alone, and someone just sent me a serious message. For today alone, I had 2 investors. Well, no, actually 3. Chris, what do we do now? I can't go telling people.
I'll tell you what you do. You land the plane and you wait. When we are flying and the bad weather is ahead and the thunderstorms, we find a place and we land and we wait out the thunderstorm. But it don't mean that the sunshine is not going to come back.
Yes.
I am telling you that Guyana, the future of Guyana is going to be amazing. Unless we really have bad people who derail this country, and I don't believe so. I believe we are going to overcome this. I believe that these dark clouds ahead of us will clear. And I've been flying for 40 years, and I have had to land places and wait for those clouds to move. And the clouds will move from in front of Guyana. And once again, Guyana will be on
But
this
Gerry,
trajectory.
that's, the clouds moving, rain falling, maybe.
You work in an office. You have no idea what I'm saying. When you see these clouds ahead of you, and then you figure there's no way you can keep going.
I don't think you realize I'm a farmer as well.
Okay.
No, but Gerry, on a serious note, here is people with money. They want to invest.
Tell them to wait.
They have to make sure. Exactly.
Tell them to wait.
Because we, and probably the world,
Yes.
other than maybe the Spanish flu in I think it was 1920 or something like that, when 50 million people died. So let's put this in context, yeah? When the population of the world was probably what? 10% of what it
The
is
world did not have the kind of scientists we have today.
Yes.
We have amazing
So that's
science.
the point.
Science will help us get past this.
But it will. But it's quite amazing. Could you have imagined the most imaginative science fiction writer could not have imagined COVID-19, where all the airports, when on 9/11,
I know.
the airplanes
Correct.
went into the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
We thought, God, the sky is falling. What happens now?
Look, there's always people who come to the rescue.
Yeah.
In Guyana, there was a man that came to the rescue, a man by the name of Desmond Hoyt. When we came to a point in the history of this country, and when I walked into this building, I saw Desmond Hoyt photograph out there. And if I had my way, I'd love to build a statue for Desmond Hoyt. Desmond Hoyt is one of the men that I have a lot of gratitude for what he did. Desmond Hoyt to me is a bastion of, he's the man that helped brought back democracy, and particularly he gave back life to private sector and private enterprise.
But
and he was a bright light.
And we're talking about the investors. When you have a situation, these persons now have serious cash flow problems. They can't. Their businesses are closed. They've got their fixed expenses to meet. This is a setback that can go for a couple of years. The consequences of it, not the event. The event, I'm sure we will survive the event.
Yes.
But the consequences can easily last a couple of years.
The resilience of human beings is amazing. We are going to overcome this. We are going to work day and night. We are going to work around the clock.
But Gerry,
We're going to put our shoulders to the wheel.
But money doesn't come that easily if the airport is closed. I don't care how good your facility is.
The airports will be open back. Relax.
Yes.
It will be open back. We have to let us deal with what we didn't know, and listen. We could
But that's
live.
one of the
Let me
things
just
we're
say to
dealing
you,
with
we
now.
could live without water. We could live without food. The one thing we cannot live without is hope. And I'm telling you, every one of us, there is hope. And Guyana and the world will overcome this, and we will move on
Gerry,
to a shiner place.
as somebody said the other day, hope is not a plan.
We are smart people. We
I
are
know.
very, very smart
Oh,
people.
all about.
With that hope will come the plans. All we have to do is understand that tomorrow is going, not tomorrow, but tomorrow is going to be a better time than today. Tomorrow is going to be a struggle just like today for now, and probably it will struggle us for the next month. Hopefully not too long in the future. But it will be over. And there's many young
accept we've
people.
never had, and certainly
I
a
understand
country. The COVID is bad. The COVID is bad, and that is destroying many economies.
And the
We have
election trauma is bad.
the election
And
trauma.
the oil price is bad. We understand that.
And
we understand that.
we have spent tons of money as a country to put the infrastructure in place to oversee and to regulate oil. Now, we are facing the possibility or the probability that in the year 2020, our first year of becoming a petrostate, the cost of regulating the petroleum sector will exceed the revenue we get.
Yeah. A friend of mine texted me yesterday and he said, Gerry, Guyanese leaders, the one thing they do very, very well is stand in the way of Guyana's progress.
Mm-hmm.
And he's supposed to explain to me tonight when I go back home what he meant. But you know what? Chris? Guyanese leaders, the good thing is we have political leaders, we have people in the church, we have people in the trade unions, we have people in the private sector, we have civil society. And this is a partnership. This is a partnership of all of us. Politicians alone are not going to make those decisions. All of us will join there, and we are going to work together to overcome this challenge.
Well, we don't even know where the head table is. Where are we going to make this decision? You know, in order to make decision, you have to sit around the table.
Yeah.
Who sits around the table? Who chairs that meeting? Who are attended? Who are invited?
Well, when countries get to this stage, it was interesting. Somebody made the point, because I was going to say a moment before now that CARICOM, the OAS, and maybe the United Nations will need to come together and help us resolve this issue. But somebody said to me the other day, why do we need foreigners to come? And another person came back in the Facebook chat and said, well, we don't even know what is the majority of 65. So we need help. We need help. But I am saying that in this particular case, where the issue of trust seems to be a problem, we have to get external help.
Yes, I agree with you, and I want to share that optimism as well. And incidentally, my son just said, "This is an inspiring interview with you."
No, the future is amazing. Don't be
But
worried.
I keep saying, and I don't want to threaten you about the audit on television. But when we get into provisioning and so on, I want to hear what you're going to say. Because, Gerry,
I just want to publicly say
who could have imagined
that Chris Ram has been the auditor for Oraimo for the last 30 years, and he's threatening me on national television.
Gerry, who could imagine the United States of America, it boasts to be the greatest country in the world, appealing to any country, can you please send us this, can you please send us that?
Because this is a struggle for humanity.
So it shows you the magnitude and the originality of this. I don't want to use the word catastrophe, but when you put the three together, it's hard to be as optimistic as you're saying. And I repeat, hope is not a plan.
This is like somebody falling from a 20th story building. And when they're passing the 10th story,
so far so good.
They said, we still have 10 more to go. But I will tell you something, Chris. As a young boy, very, very young boy growing up in large housing scheme, and I remember it had to be in the 60s because I was really young. And I remember hardships really hit my family, where they had to be cooking on fireside because we had no cooking gas.
Yes.
They had no cooking gas in the country, or at least for people at our level anyway. And my father used to take us and we used to go and fish in the Damaha Canal.
Gerry, is not that we wouldn't survive it.
Right.
But it's how long it's going to last and what will be its consequences. That's the problem.
The difference is now there's a lot more science, there's a lot more tenacity, there's a lot more innovation. And Guyana is on the crest of amazing things. So I am not as gloomy about this. I know we have to deal with it. And the reason I'm telling you this, there's only one way to deal with this is to confront it head on.
But I also said that there's a fourth problem. We don't have a parliament in operation at the state.
Well, that is true too.
And that is where these problems have to be resolved. That's where you make legislation. Godfrey Station has to be complemented. This is an act of courage on his part.
I am very impressed with the Godfrey
This
Station,
is an act of courage because this is outside of the law.
Well, what is happening here is outside of the law.
Good.
What is happening here is outside of any parameters of economics. I would love to see the economists explain this. How it is going to be a challenge, but you know what? Human beings are very innovative. Human beings are very innovative, and I am betting on the tenacity, on the resilience, and the innovation of the human being to overcome this.
Let me say, but in closing, I wouldn't be surprised if you enter the priesthood at some point in time. With that kind of hope. Operators and viewers, thank you very much for your time this past hour. We were talking with Captain Gerry Gouveia, Chairman of the Private Sector Commission, and truly one of the outstanding Guyanese of our generation. Until next week, good night.